It's okay. Right. So let's move on. So we are talking to, let's look at some truth and false issues when it comes to stress in general. So just as so far nobody uh, mentioned 10 on 10 for that they are in very good health, that will tell us that everybody feels stressed from time to time, and that is very normal. So it is true that in life, at a point you feel stressed out. I'm sure if you are to take this rating a week before, it might be different. Next week, it will also be different. Somebody who is scoring 8 maybe may fall a bit or may get better. So which means that stress in itself is something that can get us. So everybody feels stress from time to time. It's a normal reaction as well. Stress is a normal reaction. So if you are going through stress, that doesn't mean that heaven is breaking loose on you. So stress is a normal reaction. He also said that it happens to us all in situations we find stressful. So if you're in a situation that you feel threatened or you are uncertain about something, you don't really know where to move or what to do, at times we all find ourselves in situations like this. So it happens, some situations will demand stress, and you realize that you just have too much to do. There are too much on your head, there are too much on your decks to clear, and you feel so stressed or overwhelmed sometimes. It happens and it's okay. They're also saying that stress can be useful because it can help us perform better. Yes, so these are positive. So stress is not always negative. I'm sure we've heard this over and over before, that stress is not always negative. So sometimes it helps us to perform better. So maybe if people who are football enthusiasts, before you know that before you play a tournament or a match, you have to train, and the training can come with a lot of stress and all those stuff. When you have academic papers to write, exams to write, you have to bend the night, read plenty. You won't be want to sleep, but you are forcing yourself not to sleep, and you are going through all this. It's normal, and these things you are doing is to get you perform better in the task ahead. So if you are training, if you are reading, if you are learning, you are doing all these things because you want to achieve a particular goal. So in this sense, we can say that stress is useful sometimes because it helps us to perform. If maybe you have to do a presentation to a large gathering, maybe some very professional group where you are going to speak, you have to make sure that you have your note in check and everything. And it can come with some form of stress. It's okay because you want to deliver the best. Because if you maybe you underestimate yourself or the people, you may go and be making some forms of mistakes. So it is okay to go through some stress when there's some task ahead that you're supposed to accomplish. So, which means that stress is not always as bad as it is. But as with everything has its own threshold. But what is false about stress? There's one thing that we do say is that if you feel stressed or anxious, you have a mental illness. No. So we want to get the understanding that stress or feeling stressed or anxious doesn't mean that you have a mental illness. As we mentioned from the beginning, it's a reaction to a particular situation, and it can be normal. So you going through stress, you feeling anxious, you feeling overwhelmed, sometimes doesn't mean that you have a mental illness. And then you should know exactly why you are feeling stressed. Sometimes you can just be stressed out without even knowing exactly what is making you stressed. Because you can say that, "Ah, today I've not done anything much, but I'm so exhausted, I feel weak," and all those stuff. Sometimes you don't. So uh, like how you say, you should know exactly why you are feeling stressed. Sometimes you don't have to know. So it is not always that we know the specific reason why you are stressed. But sometimes too, you can know. You are able to trace and see that, okay, this is what is causing the stress for me. But in some situations too, you may not know what exactly is bringing out the stress. So they are saying that it is not always that we should know exactly what is making us feel stressed. That's why sometimes somebody will come and tell you that I'm feeling so stressed, but you ask what exactly is the issue, and they're unable to tell you. They tell you, I don't know. And then also another false statement is that you are weak if you feel stressed. No, stress is not about being weak, or doesn't show that you are weak. It just shows that the body is reacting to normal daily activities, or in your instinct, everything is working. It just shows that the body is working. So it is normal to feel stressed, and feeling stressed doesn't mean that you are weak. That is why we always keep saying that seeking help doesn't make you weak, because we all need to seek help at a point. So that is one thing we should also know about issues of stress when it comes up. So when something is happening to us that we find scary or makes us feel unsure, then it is normal to feel stressed. For example, imagine someone who is scared of flying. They may think the flight will be awful or a disaster. Seeing this thing in the air for the first time, you've done no experience, and you have to go and sit in it, imagining whatever. Maybe you've had some issues of some crashes and in recent times, and you have to go and board a flight. So you can see that there will be a lot of anxiety coming up over there. And you are saying that sometimes it can be normal to feel so. So this person who is scared of flying may be thinking that the flight will there'll be some disaster on their way. They may have threatening images running through their minds, which makes them feel stressed as a result. They may sometimes even begin to feel sick,
Hey, Patrick, before
shaky, and tensed. Because you see, one thing about issues of stress is that it's what's planned on the mind of the individual, the interpretation they are giving to something, the perceptions they are having behind the whole situation is what gives them all those interpretations and make them feel anxious or nervous sometimes. But we are saying that sometimes some of these things can be very normal, can be very okay. Yeah, we know we've had incidents where there may be uh, clashes, accidents, and whatever. So in situations like that, if you are feeling stressed or scared in any situation like that, it can be very normal. Okay, so my slide doesn't want to move. Yeah. So nevertheless, other stress reactions can be helpful, as we've already mentioned. You are about to perform in a school performance, you feel your body tense up, you explain some of these things. So this is a helpful response because it will help you at the end of the day perform well or better. Now let's look at what we call the flight or fight response when it comes to issues of stress. You see, when we feel stressed, like we are not aware of something happening, or if we just bump into an issue or we just heard something, the body has these two signals that it comes with, either a fight or a flight response. So sometimes when we feel stress, we are unaware of what is happening. This can make us feel worse because we do not understand why we feel the way we do. When this happens, we can start to feel overwhelmed, and it's very normal. But let's look at the science behind how these things happen. So sometimes some reactions will be that you start stepping back and becoming more curious about what is happening over there. Your bodies, your muscles will all start bringing up some reactions, and you start feeling stressed, and you come up with ways to tackle the stress. So let's look at the image over here. So when you first perceive something, so it gets to the mind. So the mind signals a danger. So like with the example of the flight issue that we were looking at. So when the mind signals something, or maybe you feel that this is going to be a stressful moment, then the mind signals danger. When the mind signals danger like that, quickly the heart will also take it. There is that there'll be some changes in your breathing patterns. adrenaline will start to release. When the adrenaline start releasing like that, then the reactions will start coming up. Some of the reactions, you realize that you may start feeling some shakiness or dizziness, muscle tensions, nausea. Sometimes people say they feel butterflies in their stomach, lightheadedness. Sometimes this unreal feeling due to the change of blood flow make all these things may be coming up. So the signal or the connection between the mind, the heart, all these things, and then the adrenaline that is released, this gives us the fight or flight response. So when you experience or you encounter any stress-provoking stimuli, then that's why sometimes you want to know when these reactions start coming, then you want to know what exactly is ahead of you. And when we are feeling stressed, we can sometimes tell where exactly we feel it in our bodies. People often say that they feel butterflies, as I've already said, in their tummies and all that they're talking about. So the flight and fight response, so it is about what the mind perceives. So if it is danger, after the mind feels that, it connects to the heart and realize that this adrenaline rush will start bringing about uh, the various reactions that people go through when they are feeling stressed. So you are also saying that human response to stress is just the same way as animals do. So let's take typical of a leopard. So think of a leopard being at a quiet place, minding his or her own business. Then it hears a noise. So that noise that it hears, so the brain quickly has the interpretation that, hey, there's some danger coming. So let's look at the reactions. So when it comes like that, first, the adrenaline, based on the adrenaline rush over there, the spine gets longer and then stiffer so they can escape more quickly. Blood is sent to the legs to be stronger when fighting. You're talking about the fight and flight response. The neck muscles fill with blood to keep the head steady and protect its spine while allowing it to focus. The heart rate will also definitely change and get it faster to quickly send the blood to where it needed most often. And that, and then also sometimes freezes on the spot. So just as the leopard's scenario here, the same way the human body also responds when it comes to stress. So when we encounter danger and the adrenaline releases its hormones like that, the whole system, the heart to start racing, there'll be increase in blood flow, even your breathing pattern will increase. So that is how the system works. So you may have felt a similar way when you have been stressed. This is a completely normal stress response and it's known as the fight or flight. So as well as running away, sometimes when you are extremely stressed, you can freeze. So when freezing means sometimes you can shut down. You can just shut and don't know what exactly to do when you are stressed. And we call this adrenaline response because so whatever is happening over there is due to the adrenaline rush in the system. That is what is making us feel so. So now let's come. Those are some of the signs behind this whole thing. Let's come down into the detailed discussions here. So as I was saying, stress is a response to external challenges, pressure, or events. And we've already established the fact that everyone experiences stress, and some stress is very okay. Although some stress is okay, too much stress can be overwhelming. So it can interfere with our daily living, such as our sleep, our thinking, our learning, and can prevent us from enjoying life in general. We can look at stress in two forms, physical stress and then the emotional stress. So talking about the physical stress, we're talking about the kind of stress that gets you exhausted physically. So it's like overworking yourself, long hours of working, lot of work work overload, where you go to work and like multiple tasks. The whole week is filled with activities. You are multitasking here from morning, you do this, afternoon, you do this, evening. So the whole days of the week, you don't have any time for yourself. So this physical exhaustion that will come can be placed under the physical stress, not having time for me to rest or sleep. There are people, they don't what they call 8 hours of sleep. They've never seen some for some long period now because they are always on the go. They're always on the run. Monday to Friday, they go to their workplaces, which is already demanding. Weekends, other programs are there, either some social functions, family meetings, and what have you, weddings, funerals, Sundays, church activities, and some church activities can be so engaging. You can go in the morning and after main service, you are going for meetings and here and there. By the time you get back, it's late. And so some people, even their children, sees them just few hours in the day and that ends it. Their day is always back to back, back to back. So these things will bring about physical exhaustion. And this is what we call a physical stress that may come up. Then the other form is the emotional stress. So as we said, that's a psychological strain and uneasiness that comes. So you just feel like that you are feeling just exhausted within yourself. You feel stuck, you feel locked, you feel just emotionally drained. So that is the emotional aspect. And this happens when there's an emotional issue or something that gets you a bit emotional, either anxious, depressed, nervous, all this stuff. So, for example, maybe if you've lost a loved one, uh, financial difficulties can even come, or maybe uh, you've just lost a job, or we'll look at some of the examples ahead actually. And sometimes it can even be the fear of the unknown. Maybe you've taken a decision and you don't know what the outcome of that decision is going to be, and that is putting a lot of strain on you. So this can also be another form of stress. However, we can also look at some further divisions when it comes to the groupings. Like this one, you're talking about the causes. So we want to group the causes into two categories. And here we have the internal stresses and then the external stresses. So we're talking about the internal stresses. So these are things that go on inside the head, things that you think about, like what is going into the mind, how we perceive things, how we process our thought patterns. So the internal stresses are caused by how we process information within the head or within the mind. So, for example, if something happened and you're telling yourself that you are good for nothing, oh, me, I can't do it, then those negative self-talks, once those negative self-talks start coming and they're in the mind, they are going to bring about a lot of stress because now things that could have been done simply that you can easily do because of what the mind is telling you, you cannot do it, you are nobody, you are a failure, nobody likes you, and all those once they are happening like that, then the body will start reacting to it accordingly, and this is an internal stress. So we are saying that as these thoughts are internal, we can usually control them. One thing about the internal stresses is that we can actually control them. So it's there, if you're talking about the difference between the internal and then the external stresses, one difference is that the internal stresses can be controlled. So like those negative thoughts that the individual may be thinking about, what evidence are there to them? If the individual can give evidence to why they are feeling those way on that way, or even now have a change of how they see things, and rather being proud of themselves and appreciating who they are, taking one thing at a time, knowing that no, nobody's perfect, mistakes are bound to happen, and all those stuff. If the individual can change how they process their things in their mind, sometimes they're able to minimize the internal stresses, even though we look at some practical ways of managing these stresses that we are talking about. So let's look at some examples of the uh, internal stresses. So, like the mind traps, unrealistic expectations, where we expect things that we know that it's very difficult to achieve. Maybe talking about issues of relationship, you want your man, you want your woman to be this specific person that you have this. Meanwhile, sometimes it's not easy coming by things like that. So having some of these unrealistic expectations, if they do not happen the way they are, it starts to break you down, making you feel like maybe you are not good enough and all that. Some taking things personally, everything you blame yourself. Everything you think you are the cause, you are at fault and everything. So always taking things personally, even if it is for the general population, maybe at workplace and boss says something that is everyone, maybe who is uh, affected. You take that whole thing that maybe it is because of you. That's why they are saying this, or it is because of you. That's why this thing happened. So taking things personal will also be stressing you. All or nothing thinking, where you think in just one angle, just like your way of seeing things is just one-sided, whether it is yes or it is no. So maybe all you know is that this particular thing, if I do it, I'll fail. And you don't make room for any changes that may come up because maybe you've tried a thing before and you once failed. So anytime you see that, you know that I'm going to fail. So at the end of the day, you declare yourself as a failure. So you are always having that one angle instead of you thinking about alternate things or giving reasons. Ask why. You don't ask why those whys. You just conclude that this is what I'm thinking, and that is what it is. This can equally be stressing us and exaggerating things as well. Something that actually is just so petty, but we magnify it, make it so big that as if it can never be solved, or you're the only one who is suffering that in this entire life. Negative self-talks, as I've already mentioned, expecting the worst to happen because you know that for you nothing good happens to you. So you're always expecting the worst to happen to you. Being hard on yourself and overthinking. You're always thinking. There's no time that you free yourself and be yourself. Always that you are blaming yourself for something and like associating blames here and there, making thinking that for you, you don't even deserve to be alive. All these things are emotional stresses that be coming our way, and it is going to be having effect on our lives. Some lifestyle choices as well. Poor diet, which maybe I think most of us will find ourselves in some of these things where you don't make good time to eat. Sometimes maybe based on the work overload, if you forgot yourself that the whole day you haven't eaten, or the kind of food you eat, the time of eating, you end up eating late, sometimes eating junk food and all those stuff, not getting enough sleep, as I mentioned, because you're always on the run, you don't have time to sleep. Spending too much time either watching TV on our phones, on social media, and all those stuff. Sometimes they can equally bring us some level of stress. Then stressful personality type. Sometimes our personality traits can equally make us prone to some forms of stress. So somebody who is not being open-minded, where they're always their minds are fixed on this, like somebody who has the all or nothing thinking, where they are exaggerating styles, where they are reading minds of people. Like they always think they know what the person is thinking. Very sometimes paranoid. They are always suspecting people for doing things they shouldn't be doing. When some of these personality traits can actually also make one to be prone to stress. Not being good team member or being people or being a people pleaser. There are people their life hinges around people. It's like what they will do to please others is what they do. So it's anything of the when they dress is like what people say. Anything about them is so they need some forms of uh, approval. So sometimes you can be talking looking at the someone with a dependent personality type where they're always depending on people's approval before they do things. So because they don't believe in themselves, they think they don't have that capacity within themselves to do what they're supposed to do. So they are always looking down upon themselves. And if you are that type of person, or based on that personality type, you may be prone to stress sometimes. And these are all examples of the internal uh, causes of stress. Let's look at the external. So we are talking about the external, which is directly opposite to the internal. Okay. So there are also things going on in the world around us which can cause stress. So as we mentioned at first, with the internal stresses, there are things we can actually control when we're able to change some of the way how we see them, how we see things, we're able to change our way of looking at things. Sometimes we're able to control some of those stress. When it comes to the external one, some we can or we may not be able to control them. Some may not be able to control them. So as we said, often we may have less control over them. However, we can make or we can take some time or some steps to reduce the how they come. So some examples could be uh, academic pressure. So as a student, uh, the course for the semester, plenty. Every lecturer is giving his or her own assignment. You're supposed to be doing this, you're supposed to do that. The timelines are so short. That pressure can, and sometimes you can't control because these are lecturers are supposed to write these things too. High stakes exams. So where the outcome of this particular paper means means a lot to you. So you put in every effort to ensure that something good come out of it. So those ones can equally be stressful. Loss of a job definitely will stress somebody. Financial stress, a heavy workload, long hours of working, not able to balance work and your personal life. So it's like there's that gap. Either you are drowned in work and your home is suffering, or either based on the home situations, your work is not able to, you're not able to perform well at work. So not being able to balance this can equally be a lot of stress to somebody. Chronic illness or injury, where the individual is suffering some sickness that maybe is going to be life-threatening or it's going to be for life. The person must be on medication for the rest of their life. All these things can be stressful. Sometimes the physical environment, being in a very noisy environment, or be sometimes the temperature too hot and being stuck in maybe a small space, maybe the room, single room, with about 6 occupants, because there's no money to rent a bigger one or self chamber and hall. So you're all managing with all your things. Sometimes it can be so stressful sometimes. Some social issues too. When someone else is rude to us, sometimes the person make us feel down and as if we are not important. Sometimes it can get to you, and that's how people react towards you. Sometimes it can be stressful. All our interactions with people can bring us some level of stress. When people are feeling so bossy over us, as if we don't matter, it can equally be a source of stress. People being rough to us or they don't listen to us. When you are trying to express yourself, they don't listen. All they want you to do is what they say. You have responses, like there are issues you can say to explain things, but you don't have the opportunity. When you find yourself in situations like this, it can be so stressful. But it's just like you don't have too much control over some of these things because you don't have the strength to do that. Sometimes disagreements in relationships and with parents or with friends. Some of these domestic issues can also be stressful, where a wife and husband are not able to come to a consensus on a particular decision they want to make. Maybe parents and children, something, maybe some lifestyle choices and things may bring some conflict. And sometimes feeling lonely and left out. You go to places, you be among some people, and nobody seems to be caring for you, minding you. Like this whole world, it seems you are alone. Sometimes it can also be stressful, and all these are external stresses that can come our way. Also, some major life events, moving location. Maybe if you are the type of worker who they post change can change your posting site, moving from one place to the other can also be stressful sometimes. A death of a loved one or a breadwinner, all these things can also bring about stress, and changes in family circumstances or changing school and all these things. So these are some external stresses we can be talking about. So what are the things that influence both the internal and external stresses? We've already mentioned our personality, who we are. Who we are is something that uh, can tell how you respond to a situation as stressful or not stressful. If you are the easygoing type of person, there are things that you may not take too much to heart compared to somebody who is more paranoid and more detail oriented. More detail oriented. If those some of those personality types can equally influence how we experience stress. Then learning, coming to know about something, your experience about something. So like you're using the flight example, maybe because you've ever been on a flight and something happened, that knowledge that we have can influence it. But at the same time, learning to know, maybe having advanced learning in some things can change your way of seeing certain things. Maybe based on the previous knowledge, based on the cultural issue or something like that. As you keep learning socialization, modernization, all these things are coming. You get to learn new things and then you tend to change how you perceive it. But if you're not open to learning, sometimes it can also affect how you process things, and that can be causing you stress. How we react to things that happen in our lives, how we look after ourselves, making time to relax, getting exercise, and all those stuff. If you're able to do all some of these things, it can influence our internal and external stresses. How we talk to ourselves, as I mentioned there, both the negative and positive self-talks, how we talk to ourselves, all these things can tell how, if you are the type who exaggerates or magnifies. There's one cognitive distortion called magnification. You magnify it, makes things, blow things out of their proportion. And I was also mentioning sometimes even jumping into conclusion. When we are having a discussion with somebody and they seems to be saying something that you are thinking, that you conclude that and this is what the person wants to say, or sometimes reading the minds of others, all these things can equally affect how we experience stress. So let's look at some symptoms. Let's look at some symptoms of stress. So these are from some random search and research. Uh, so sometimes if you are stressed out physically, there may be these skin problems. Some people, when they are stressed out, they tend to be using drugs and alcohol, and they misuse some of these things. Uh, so sometimes to married couple, there may be that change in sexual pleasure or sexual desire, either less or it may be over. Forgetfulness. If you are stressed out, if there's stimulus overload, you can also be forgetting things quickly, making it difficult to make decisions. And if you are stressed, that's where some of the negative thoughts come even more. You're not able to focus. Sometimes there may be these panics that you may be going through. Easy irritability or anger. The little thing that was just burst out, angry, almost everybody. People that, or things that previously they say you don't get angry, this time around, you are upset with whatever they say. Loss of appetite. When you are stressed out, the food is there and you just don't feel for the food. Poor sleep, uh, easy fatigue. The little thing you do, and it looks as if the whole day you've been working. So you easily get tired. Chest pain. So sometimes we do experience or complain about these gastro things. We feel air in our belly, chest pain. Sometimes those gastrointestinal issues may be as a result of stress. So the chest pain may be as a result of stress. So aching, back pains, neck pains, your joints may be paining you or be aching. All these things. Then lack of energy, indigestion or digestive problems. So you finish eating, it's like the food is not gone down well. And sometimes lack of motivation, how to have that energy to start something, to initiate the day, things that you've planned doing. It becomes difficult to do some of it. This can be some of the same things that should be telling you that no, the system or the body is stressed out. So if the list is not limited to this, and there are others ahead as well. But let's look at some other issues. Some have been mentioned. We are talking about effect of stress over here. You mentioned about the previous was the same thing. I'm talking about the effect. So we are talking about increase the risk for heart diseases. Sometimes you hear that this person is healthy, and just the following day, the person is a heart cardiac arrest, and that is the end of the person. And if you go through all this, you realize that the person has been going through a lot of stress, either the physical or the emotional stresses, and they are not having time for themselves, and that can stress can increase the risk for heart diseases, chronic gastrointestinal problems, like I said, the ulcers, the stomach ulcers that we've been talking about, the chest pain, some of those things, gastrointestinal issues can be as a result of stress, chronic constipation or diarrhea, where because of the indigestions and stuff that happen, you end up having constipation. You go to the toilet and you're not able to, or diarrhea may be happening, heartburns, acid reflux. All these things will be causing you to having chest pain, burning sensations on the chest, and all those stuff. Stomach ulcers, as already mentioned, prostate cancers. So stress can have an impact on your prostate. It can also bring about emotional dysregulations where either you are depressed, anxious, and then to the mental erectile dysfunctions can come out due to the excess stress you are going through. Headaches or sometimes tension headaches, either one side of the head or the entire head may equally be aching. So stress is not our friend like that. We're also talking about male infertility. So the effect of chronic stress on testosterone levels, sperm production, and sperm quality increases the risk of infertility. So you are saying that stress can have an effect on the testosterone levels in their system. As sperm or as male, sperm production, and even the quality of sperm. So you can produce sperm all right, but the quality will bring about infertility. Let's also take notice of this. So stress can make about male infertility. Chronic stress affects our immune system and interferes with our inflammatory response, making us more susceptible to cold and infection. So rather that you'll be having cold more frequently, and that can be as a result of stress they are going through. Sometimes stress can equally prone people to pregnancy issues. So I said that women with higher stress levels have a more difficult time becoming pregnant than women with lower stress levels. And aside this, to the stress, even if the person gets pregnant, the stress can equally have effects on the pregnancy. Because sometimes either miscarriages or how do you call it, IUFDs, all these things may be happening. Menstrual problems, premenstrual syndromes is more severe with increasing stress. So sometimes the menstrual dysregulations that may be happening to the lady may be due to her stress level. So at the time she's expecting the period to start, it didn't start at that time. There'll be that changes, or the number of days, yes, she's expecting to flow. She doesn't see it like that. Sometimes it can be as a result of stress. So we should look at those things properly. Yeah, so we are looking at some coping uh, mechanisms for stress management. How do we cope after after listening to all these things? How then do we cope and manage our stresses properly? So the first thing I have on my list here is that we should manage our time management, where we prioritize tasks. So let's make the day and take one thing at a time. What do we do from here? And in each of our planning, we have time for rest or time that we will have time for ourselves. So as a prioritized task, use a planner to identify urgent versus important tasks, focusing on the high impact activities first, things that you think they are very, very necessary. The ones that there are some things that ideally can wait. So if you plan the day very well, you know that this can wait. And don't load the day too much. As I was saying, take things one at a time. And there we also have to learn how to even say no. I think in my next slide, some of the things that we have to know in order to prioritize tasks, we'll look at that. And then we mentioned previously that sometimes having unrealistic expectations can cause us a lot of stress. So we are saying here that let us set realistic goals. Let us set realistic goals so that we are able to achieve the goals we are. So we can use being specific in our goal setting. Our goals should be are they achievable? Are they timely? Are they things that we can actually get? So let's break tasks and make sure that they are realistic. And then avoid procrastination. You have your plan. You have your plan done that from this time to this time you do this, from this time to this time you do this. But the time for this is due. It's like you push it. As you are pushing, it's going to pile up to the next task. So procrastination will increase your activity level. And at the end of the day, you get stressed. So like students, for instance, oh, I'll learn, oh, the exam is next week. I have some few days more. So let me, you keep pushing the steady time. By the time I realize you have about 2 to 3 hours to start, and you now want to use 2 hours to learn the thing you used 3 months that 3 months was used to teach. All these things can make us become so stressed out. And students, we should also have study techniques. Uh, there is one, how do you call it, model that explains how we study. So this model takes inspiration from those who did economics, in at least basic economics, the the law of utility. So the law of utility says that when one begins to consume a commodity, satisfaction increases, get to a peak and begins to fall. So the same way, what it means is that, let's say, for example, you are thirsty. So as you are thirsty, you barely need water to drink. So when you get the water, at the time you start drinking, once the satisfaction is increased, you can be drinking with some kind of speed so that you just quench that thirst. So maybe a medium bottle of what the bottle water, maybe the medium one. When you start drinking, it's like it's going with speed. It will get to some point where that no, you don't need that speed any longer. And to get to a point, you don't want to drink again because satisfaction has been achieved. It has gotten to its peak. If you want to continue drinking that water, satisfaction is going to decline. So if you are not careful, you may even vomit out because you are overly satisfied. So that's the law of utility. So this happens here in studies as well. So in studies, that's why it is advised that we break our studies into time. When you go and sit down to start learning at the beginning, maybe the first 1 hour of studies, your accumulation takes place. You're able to understand what you are reading. So after the first 1 hour, research is saying that after first 1 hour, maximum 1.5 hours, accumulation get to its peak. Especially when it comes to reading subjects. With calculations, that one, it doesn't really follow that. But when it comes to reading subjects, after doing a maximum 1 hour, if you should go per 1.5 hours, you should break. Give some small minute break to yourself, at least maybe walk around, do something out of the reading, because at that point, the brain has gotten to its peak, its maximum level, where whatever you are now reading from that point is no longer learning. You're just reading just like you read a graphic because accumulation doesn't happen again. So if you give yourself time and come back, realize that accumulation will start again, and this time understanding of the concept will increase. But if you see that the continuous 2, 3 hours that you want to learn, some throughout the night, what the model is saying that after the what we call it stimulus overload, when the mind is full up, whatever happens afterwards doesn't stick. So you go to the exams hall, all right, and you've actually read the concept, but you guys like you can't remember what you've read. Like, this thing I've read it, but why can't I remember? It is because it didn't save. So one study technique is that you give some breaks and make time for rest as well. Sometimes sleep, have enough rest. When you wake up, you study. Fine, we have individual different. Not everybody studies properly or studies well at dawn. So if yours is you study at the daytime, make time for rest and maybe sleep properly at night so that in the day you can study, whichever one works for you. And then also another strategy is then that active learning, engage in, this is actually for students, engage in group discussion, teach back techniques, or tutoring to reinforce knowledge. So if you are the type who enjoys group work, and group work or group studies actually have been proven to be very good, you can practice that. As you teach your colleagues some of the concepts, you yourself you get a better understanding of it because you must explain the concept to your friends. And that matter, you have to find different ways of explaining it so that your colleagues understand. By doing so, you are getting more understanding yourself. And then if you see the image I have here, some other stress managing coping mechanism, music, music can help. Listen to good music. Listen to good music. Uh, some therapy, you can go for some therapy that will help you manage your stress. Some spa or massage treatment. Regular exercise. Regular exercises help. Identify how your hobbies are. Sometimes because of how loaded our days, we forget to even do some of our hobbies. So let us make time to enjoy ourselves. Meditation, some yoga activities, or even make time with nature. Look at the green environment, travel, go on a tour, something like that, and help yourself. And time management, as we've already mentioned, is one of the strategies also listed there. Yes, this is one key thing that I want us to look at. You see, most of the times we go through some of this internal stress because we don't actually know some of our rights. So, as I saying, all human beings have certain basic rights. And the rights I'm talking about here, I'm not talking about those in the legal documents. These are rights that we mostly ignore. We recognize these rights and we must take responsibility in protecting them when they are disregarded by others. So let's look at some personal rights that are important, but we often forget them. So we want from this discussion, let us know that we all have the right to ask for what we want. So as an individual, nobody prevents you from asking for what you want. If what somebody is asking you to do, if you are not okay with it, you have the right to say, I'm not okay with this thing. If you are okay. So don't be intimidated to say your mind because you have the right. These are basic rights that should be protected. You have the right to ask for what you want. You also have the right to say no to requests or demands that you can't meet. You have the right to say no to requests or demands that you can't meet. You are not superhuman. Nobody's perfect. So it's not everything. Sometimes you can be so stressed out and someone else is coming to add his or her work to your work again. And but you know that the body is so exhausted or the mind is so exhausted at that point. Find a way to say no. one basic way, if maybe saying no outrightly will not be easy, you can tell the person that let me go and think about it and give you a response. At least you've gotten some chance. And that is also your right. You have the right to ask for time to think about it. Then come back to tell the person, oh, after looking at one or two things, I'm unable to take on this assignment at this time. So explain yourself as simple as that. You also have the right to express all of your feelings, whether positive or negative. As humans, as you are, we're talking about managing our stresses. We have the right to express all of our feelings, and then whether they are positive or negative. You see, some of these right, if you're able to get them very well, it helps us to become very assertive. And then an assertiveness in itself helps you to manage your stress. Being assertive that don't mean you are rude to the person. It doesn't mean you have to manipulate others or you have to be hard on others. Being assertive means that you know your right. At the same time, you protect the right of others as well and ensure that those people also protect yours. That is about assertiveness. So as you want people to respect yours, you must also respect theirs. That makes us assertive. So assertiveness in itself helps us to manage our stress. And then one other right is that we have the right to change our mind. You've taken a decision, and later on, you know this decision that I've taken, I need to change it. Don't feel intimidated because per the basic right, human right, we say that you have the right to change your mind. You also have the right to make mistakes and not perfect. This is one thing that affects us a lot. When we make a mistake, then we feel heaven is breaking loose on us. As if we are not human. So far as we are humans, mistakes are bound to happen. So if you didn't do something well at a particular time, know that you are not perfect. If you are to be perfect, like I don't think there should be any need for training or refresher training and whatsoever. We learn every day. And because we are learning every day, mistakes can happen. And sometimes we didn't learn from those mistakes. So if you are doing something and mistakes come up, don't kill yourself. Don't feel that you are the worst ever person to ever exist on earth. You are not perfect. So far as you are human, you have flesh and blood, mistakes are bound to happen. Even sometimes the robots, the AI, sometimes they didn't give wrong responses. So if machines are giving wrong responses, how much more we humans? So let us also know that we have the right to make mistakes because we are not perfect. We also have the right to follow our own values and beliefs. What are your values? What do you believe in? You have the right to follow your rights and your beliefs. You also have the right to determine your priorities. What do I need first, second, third, fourth? And then lastly, you have the right to your own personal space and time, where you have time for yourself, time to meditate. You have that right to make time for yourself. So if the activities are becoming a lot, you know that you have that right to create time for yourself. So in the midst of all those busy schedules, remember that no, I have the right to make time for myself. So break and time, you see, time is always not there. You have to create it. If you don't create it, it doesn't come. So you must be intentional about how you uh, create time for yourself and make time for rest. It is very, very necessary. And then some other basics. So some basic things you can equally do to help yourself in the relaxed mood. So reading, you can read novels. If you are the type who like writing like I do, you write, you read, you watch movies, you go on vacations, you exercise, make time for rest. I keep saying that. Also eat good food. Let us eat good food. Sometimes you've been working. Like when you talk about good food, you see good food to be expensive. Good food shouldn't be an expensive food. Just to make sure that it can be simple but has the nutritional values in there. Okay. And it's not about eating those oily stuff and like expensive shawarma, whatever. I don't want to cause myself here, so I'm not mentioning any examples. But what you eat and be find fulfillment in. Let us eat well. However, we should limit the junk food. Let's limit alcohol. If possible, don't even do alcohol at all because it will at the end of the day get you stressed out. If you are the type who likes drawing, swimming, cooking, anything that gives you happiness. But let's also remember one thing that can help us manage our emotional stresses is forgiveness. Sometimes, if you are holding grudges on your heart, it can be weighing you down so much. If you see the person, your heart beats. You see the person, your heart beats. Let us learn to forgive. Forgiveness helps in stress management. Treat yourself well. Treat yourself well. Make time for breaks. As I say, holidays, weekends. It's not all the weddings you should be attending. It's not all the funerals you should be attending. There are some programs, if it's not too close like that, maybe sometimes they may be very close, but you see that the body is tired. You just have to make, and you say sometimes you have the right to make time for yourself and create some space for yourself. So give yourself that personal treat, make yourself happy, and we shouldn't always wait for someone to make us happy before we are happy. As a female, if my guy doesn't make me happy, no, you can take yourself out, you can whatever, buy whatever you want for yourself and make yourself happy. The same way as the man, because my woman is not doing this, make yourself happy is what we are talking about. Whatever will make you feel fine. You should know that you are the master of your life. Others are just there to support. So if you are not controlling how your life goes, others can't do much for you. And our expectations for people should also be limited. We should manage how we expect people to relate to us. Because you see, the way I love him, the way I love her, I expected that he should do the same thing for me. The things I've been doing, the time I've invested in helping him or her, I expect that they also do the same for me. When it is time and they're not doing that, then it's like we are down. No. So these are some basics that we should also be looking at. To the Christians, the Bible is also there. You can read, pray, meditate on the word of God, you can read the Psalms. There are very inspirational information over there that can help you as well. Then also, my last major thing to say here is that let's face, so change is constant. So let us face it. As life goes on, things will definitely change. Times will change. Even your physical appearance will change. You not always be with that very fresh skin. At the point the skin will start changing, everything will change. So let us embrace change positively. Let us know that things will not always be the way they are. And the same way, if you are in a bad moment now, know that a time will come that things will change. So if you are feeling that you don't have anybody, for that matter, you are feeling of suicide and all those stuff, I want to reassure you on this our call that change is constant. So things will definitely change. Things are not going to remain like that forever. The age you have today, by next year, is going to change. So far as every year you have additional age or a new age, that tells us that nothing is permanent. So whatever situation it is, change is positive or possible. Let's live in the moment. Sometimes will be thinking about the future too a lot and forget to get happiness. And the future sometimes is not too clear. You are saying that let's focus on the present. What will give us the peace we need today is what should be focused on. How am I going to feed? How am I going to sleep? What are my health? Once you focus, take each day at a time. It's the days that makes up the weeks, and the weeks makes up the month. And then the month makes the years. So if you are taking it one after the other like that, by the time you realize all the days in the year become so manageable for you. But if you are here today and thinking about how I'm going to cope in 3 months, 4 months, and you're feeling so stressed up today, it's good to plan ahead. However, let's learn also to live in the present. And positive mindset. Positive mindset. Let us think positive for ourselves. Let us appreciate ourselves. Look, you are not bad as you think you are. Where you are always feeling that you are no good person, you are a failure, and what thing, nothing good can come your way. For me, I am not this, I am not that, I am not. Those negative mindsets will not help. So we are saying that let us be positive about ourselves. We shouldn't take things too personal. Sometimes let things go. And you should also know that, look, talking about friendship, as we grow, if you should take critical look, when you are in basic school, you have a lot of friends. Those friends that you thought they are the only people that you have, ask yourself, how many of your basic school colleagues are still in your cycle now? No. So as time changes, things will also change. Even your friend zones will change. So let us be open. Let us be open and embrace change. Let us think positive. Let's have that positive mindset. We shouldn't only be looking down upon ourselves. That I can do spirit should be something that we should be encouraging for ourselves. Integrate love, work, and play. So it's not always uh, how do you call it, the serious, like you are always serious, and make time for sometimes to play. They say all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. So as you have busy schedules, also make time, reconnect to families and friends, reconnect to society, make life simple by uh, balancing some of these things in your life, because you see, life can actually be simple if you make it simple. If you make it simple for yourself. So love yourself. The Bible didn't say love your neighbors more than you love yourself. It said love your neighbors as you love yourself. So those of us who like to please others over our own happiness, let us learn to love ourselves. And then as you love yourself, you are able to also help other people. So please, these are recommendations that we are giving so we can help manage our own levels of stress. Then also let us practice acceptance. Accept yourself. Whatever situation that might have come your way, it has happened. If there's a way to change it, very good to do those things. But let us accept whatever comes our way and work on them so that we're able to manage our stresses. So my concluding, I wanted to read a scripture from 3 John chapter 1 verse 2. And it says, and this is my prayer to everybody, that dear friends, I pray that you may enjoy good health and that all may go well with you, even as your soul is getting along well. So this is my prayer, that everybody listening to me, if you are going through some form of stress, whether physical or emotional, it is my prayer that the good Lord will visit you and help you cope better. And then also make intentional effort to manage your physical stresses or your external stresses, the ones you can control, make the changes that are possible, make time for rest. That is very necessary. Let us eat well and let's avoid alcohol. If you do alcohol and drugs, abusing drugs, let us avoid some of these things. And I'm sure, and most importantly, let us care for ourselves. So we say that self-care isn't selfish. Taking care of yourself is not selfish at all. You are just you are just loving yourself and accepting yourself and ensuring that things go well for you. So I want to thank you very much for your attention. And if you have questions for me, if you have contributions to add on to our discussion on stress this evening, Please feel free, raise your hand and you have the floor, or you can equally put it in the chat box and let us interact. Thank you very much. Questions, contributions, anything. Let us, please just raise your hand, unmute and speak. I haven't seen any hand raised. Okay, so my question is, what have you learned? If maybe, what have you learned from our discussion? Unmute and share with us.
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Yes, so good evening, and I want to really thank you so much for the presentation. I think it was, not that I think it was really insightful and very educative. I grabbed a lot just to share what I learned, and maybe as the time goes on, I'll ask my question as well. So basically, I learned a lot, but one thing that I picked out that can help us is we should know our rights.
Sure.
And yeah, the right to ask for what we want. Most of the times we are not that assertive, and keeping things within ourselves can even stress us. So knowing your right and speaking out, asking for what you want really helps. And we should know that we have the right to change our mind. So this session has really helped because I'm in a state of whether I should do this or that. But having the right to change my mind has really helped me have this session. So thank you so much, Jones. We are grateful. Thank you.
You're most welcome. And thanks for the feedback. Yes, the floor is still open for interactions.
Okay, so can I ask my question now?
Yes, please.
Okay. Um, I want to find out. You ended with a scripture, which it clearly helps us a lot. So I'm coming from, maybe, should I say, the Christian perspective. Is there any form of, with addition to all the coping strategies that you gave us, exercise, set realistic goals, there were quite a number of them. Apart from that, are there any spiritual ways that could help us manage our stress? Because we are looking at the holistic way. So are there any of such?
All right. Thank you very much. I will share my view and then also let it open to the house to add on. Yes, so spiritually, there are things we can do to also help manage our stresses. So I mentioned in my presentation, I also mentioned uh, reading of the scriptures and meditating on what we read. I mentioned some that we can equally visit the books of Psalm, which has some inspiring information about there. So yes, reading the scriptures can be motivating enough where you can help you to cope. A scripture that will tell you that uh, God says his ears are not too far away to hear your call. He's saying that he's always with you. Even thousand on your right, 10,000 on your left is always with you. This gives you assurance that whatever situation in which you are going through, God has never left you behind. So the scriptures have uh, very good information there that can help us. Also, going to church, so socializing at church, going to church, even listening to the word of God, hearing the songs that worship, praises. At times, at that moment, you tend to forget some of the challenges that you are going through. And you also feel belonging to a family. In a situation whereby someone is thinking they are alone, nobody's there for them, you go to the church and at least you realize that you're in a family of people that are loving. So attending church, I'm also speaking, you are coming from a Christian perspective, so I'm equally coming from that angle. So I'm going to church, listening to the word of God, and prayers. Prayer is also very, he said in everything, bring to him your petitions, pray, and God will definitely hear us. You know, sometimes it's about the same way, our expectations, where we want things done faster than maybe God's own timing. So you've prayed today and tomorrow you didn't get a result and it looks like as if God is not listening to us. Let's have that faith, continue to trust in God that whatever you have told him, he has his own time to do it for you. So going through emotional difficulties, pray, commit whatever the situations are into God's hands. Aside the practical other things we mentioned, also get closer to your God, have that intimate relationship with your God, pour out to him, continue to trust. There was somebody I interacted with before who at a point said he feels God doesn't love him because why does God see him going through all that he's going through? So he has stopped going to church, all the religious activities. Meanwhile, this was somebody who was very active in church. He has stopped doing all those things because he feels God is not listening to him. And that is because his timing, he feels because I've prayed, I've been working, I'm doing this, I should get answers instantly. But what I want to say is that when you pray, have the faith that God in his own time will do it. Sometimes the things we pray for happen that because of the mindset we have, how we are expecting to see, because it doesn't happen like that. We think our prayers were not heard, but actually it was heard. So prayer, attending church, listening to good Christian music, worship, if those who love the choral music, listen to some of these things, it helps. Meditation or meditating upon the word of God also helps. So these are some few things I would say. But as I said, I'll leave it open. If anybody have some other contributions to add on, we'll be grateful to hear other views on it.
Yeah, Jones, I want to thank you very much for the wonderful presentation. I want to add up to that my sister, you can also use Proverbs.
Okay.
Proverbs helps a lot, both psychologically, emotionally. When you wake up in the morning and you feel you are stressed, or in the course of the day you are stressed, bear in mind that date, the day you are stressed. Go to the Psalms, Proverbs, and read that text or scripture text. For instance, today is 27th. When I come back, I'm tired, exhausted, and stressed out. I just go straight to Proverbs 27. It tells me a lot. The first one says that do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what a day may bring forth. Let another praise you and not your own mouth, someone else and not your own lips. Sometimes you have a heavy issue at heart. The verse 3 will tell you that today, 27th of July, Proverbs 27 is telling you that stone is heavy and sand is a burden, but provocation by a fool is heavier than both. So the proverb, the scriptures also helps us a lot when you know
which to read at any time. And I believe with all this our brother has said, with God, all things are possible. We shouldn't allow ourselves to be stressed. So I'll just add up by saying that we should allow God to work on us by visiting the scriptures. That is in the religious aspects. I'm taking it from, let's allow the scriptures also to speak to us. Let's visit it often, meditate on it day and night, and our stresses will be taken out. Sometimes some of the stresses we cause it ourselves. So let's help ourselves to be free from the dangers ahead. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Madam
Thank
Sarah,
you very much.
speak.
Hello,
Yes, Gillian.
this is Sarah.
Okay, Madam Sarah, sure.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sir John, for the presentation. It is very wonderful. Although I joined halfway, I have learned some good things. And one thing I would like to add, I don't know, maybe it has escaped from my hearing. Relaxation therapy is also very important to manage stress. And then when we say good music, it depends upon the holder, as it says, beauty is upon the holder of the eyes of the holder. So anyone who enjoys the particular music, if that music relaxes him, some people, they may love hard metal music and then they may relax with that. Some also with cool instrumental music. So as you said, it depends upon their choice. They can also use that to manage the stress. But my question is about, as you know, I'm a strong Christian believer, or I believe in the Lord Jesus Christ and I'm Christian. But I think this program is for every audience. So if we emphasize on the scripture reading for management of the stress, and then I believe on this platform or the participants, some are from different religious backgrounds. So how can we include their view or their belief for them also to help them to manage their stress based upon their religious background, just like as logotherapy is having different aspects from the presentation. How can we include those who are from a different religious background from Christianity? Yeah, thank you.
Yes, all right. Thank you very much. Yes, okay, so let me admit I was biased based on my faith as a Christian, and then the contribution to that came was on that angle. However, yes, so I think we all have what we believe in. We all have our uh, um, that greater power that we believe in that comes in for us anytime we call. So as a Christian, you call on Jesus. As a Muslim, you call on Allah and every other faith. So one thing religiously that can help us is to have faith in our God based on your belief, and always know that He is with you and will always comfort you. So I think that from the religious perspective, and you base on your culture, understanding of certain things to can help you. So if you're not a Christian, definitely whatever you believe in, trust in that, and I'm very sure you can get some uh, relief from that aspect. But aside the religious coping that we are talking about, We also mentioned some other coping mechanisms that we're talking about, especially thinking positively, managing our time, and the realization that Madam Sarah just mentioned is very commendable. We do some of these things to help ourselves. Maybe if someone have some specific way for other religions to help manage stress, I believe it is a good platform for the person to share that with us. So if someone has maybe from the Muslim or the Islamic perspective, from the traditional perspective, if someone can share their insight with us, I will be glad to hear from that. Sorry, I'm a bit biased to talk from all core scriptures on the Christian side because those are the ones that I know well. But if you are in that area, you can share your knowledge with us. Thank you. I can also see some other mics on. Jemima, I don't know if you want to speak. Okay. Magdalene, you can speak.
Yeah, good evening to us all. Jones, that was an insightful call to manage our stress. Actually, there are some that we might be doing already, but then when you were talking about making time for ourselves and then prioritizing us, like ourselves first, it brought to memories a quote I once saw somewhere that said, what if has been the reason most or very important ideas have gone into the grave. Like the fear of what others may say, the fear of the unknown, the fear, what if? That what if that we don't know the continuation of what comes after the if has been why some of us have not been able to move from one stage to the other, move from what is hurting us to the other, move from the questions we are not able to answer. So if we can not close our mind, we can put ourselves first at a point and let the what if take care of itself. Then we can be able to operate within what we are able to do so that the understanding or the perception people may create about us because we are taking a bold step. That's with that, and for which reason will be causing us anxiety, fear, and the rest. I think we'll grow out of it and become better people. And the more we are better, the more we are relaxed, the more we are satisfied. So that's what I would like to. And whilst we were speaking and we were talking about, we should prioritize ourselves and do what we feel comfortable. This quote just came to mind and I thought of sharing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, Gillian, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you again. I want to find out there's this belief or this thing that we keep hearing. Is there any scientific proof that stress can bring about gray hairs?
Okay. Yes, I've also heard about it. Well, but I haven't done much reading to get the scientific uh proof or reason behind that. So I'll still open it. If someone have any information on that, I've equally heard that before. That so sometimes they compare the presidents. They say that as the president starts within some few times when the stress start coming, they start growing gray hairs. But I don't know the science behind that. But if someone has some knowledge, the person can share with us. Thank you very much. I don't know if Madam Sabana will want to speak a bit on that.
Hello.
Okay, yes, Madam Sarah. Yes.
Okay, so it is just like something short that I have in mind that I have been reading some time ago. Um, yes, stress can affect our physical condition, which is pathological. So how does that relate? For example, when the person is under stress, I mean, we all know that we have different type of stress, acute stress and chronic stress. So the acute stress is that immediate stress, and then uh, mild stress, what we all pass through every day and day-to-day stress. And then when we go or migrate to chronic stress, that means we start having sleepless nights, and then the brain chemical also start changing. A lot of cortisols are being released into our system in addition to adrenaline. So the amount of the cortisol that is being released into the system, it affects the normal functioning of the body. And then as we also know, when the person is highly under stress or chronic stress, the probability of having poor sleep is there. And then we all know that we have two different type of sleep, which is rapid eye movement and rapid eye movement. And then in these two different type of sleep period, we have different function that goes on in our body or our system. So during the rapid eye movements period is the internal or the brain and the what is this, the nerves and the veins, they are the tissues, they are renewing themselves. And then the non-rapid eye movement, it is the body, especially the skin, the hair, and the other parts that also renew itself. So when we don't have enough sleep, that affects our skin. It can also affect our hair. So that affects or problem also leads to early gray. We have been hearing early gray, which is earlier than the normal age that expected the person is supposed to get gray hair. The individual can have the gray hair. So the contribution of specifically, especially chronic stress can lead to, I mean, even early aging. The person can look older than that of his age and also can have early gray, and it can affect. So as we just heard from you, Jones, uh, managing stress is very important. This is a little I can say. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. This has been very, very helpful. And that also explains from the literature, you realize that we mentioned that stress also can affect our skin and brings about some skin issues. So I think it's the same process. And as we know, stress decreases our immune system, or chronic stress end up decreasing our immune system. So once our immune system is also not at its optimal functioning level, it equally has the tendency of bringing about some of these things. Thank you, Madam Sarah, for your contribution. Uh, Let me take this. There's one question in the chat box. I will respond briefly and equally open it for us to discuss. From Senyo Mask. He said, thanks for the presentation. My question is that sometimes when one is passing through something and share with a colleague, that person's condition becomes a topic. What should one do? Yes, that is. So that is what we think. And usually, yeah, it is there. We can't rule it out. But sometimes uh, we share our concerns or emotional issues with people, and we realize we end up hearing it elsewhere. So that is why we always also advocate for seeing a professional sometimes with some of these issues, because the professional is trained to protect your information, and even there are ethics that bind a professional counselor or a therapist, psychologist, to ensure your information is protected. So one basic way of what should we do is to speak to a professional. That's one basic thing we can do. And then to ourselves, to let us learn that for someone to open up to you, it means the person have placed a lot of trust in you to open up that deep emotional information to you. So let us also learn how to keep information. However, if one reason we also encourage that we share is that sometimes after sharing the thing, whatever is stressing you emotionally, it reduces the burden because you now feel somebody has also has heard you. Even the person is not giving you practical support, just by hearing you out, lessen that weight or the burden on you. So we always advocate that you speak to a trusted person, someone that you trust, that this information will be protected. So
Learn.
I know these are some
Learn.
of the
Cheap.
external.
Learn. Busy, bro.
Madam Edith, if you can mute for us and then unmute when you want to speak. Okay, thank you. Edith Yakubu, kindly mute for us. All right, thanks. So sharing helps. Sharing actually helps to manage some of these things because if you don't share, the whole burden is on you. The whole burden is on you. So let's start share with a trusted person. We can't always say because of this we are not going to share. However, you can equally put the clause ahead that I want you to keep this my information confidential. So if the person breaches that confidentiality, you can equally take the person on. But it is necessary we share our concerns. And I was saying earlier that when we were presenting, or during my presentation earlier, as part of the external causes of stress, we mentioned there are some of these things that we can't really control. You can't control what somebody says at what time, but we just try as much as possible to minimize some of these things. So, as individuals, as colleagues, as friends, let's also protect our colleagues when they share their information with us. But it is very necessary, or it is good we share. And most importantly, let's seek for professional support, and then your information will be taken care of. Yeah, so as I said, this is what I will say about it, but I'll still open up so that if anyone has additional information to add on to how we can manage this thing of people using our issues as a topic of discussion. If you can equally share your views to us, we'll be grateful. But Sanyo, I hope you've been answered. If you have a follow-up, you can ask. And then if someone to has something to add on, the person can do so. Yeah. So Genevieve is asking, can the slide be shared in the comment section? So I think you can reach out to me after the presentation and I'll share with you. Also, we are recording the program. So we also share the recording so you can get a playback at any time you want. And Madam Sabina, thank you for the acknowledgement. Gillian says, thank you very much. Yeah, so those are the messages in the chat box for now. Please, the floor is still open for contributions, questions, anything that you want to say. And yes, let me thank Reverend Matilda, and then Madam Sarah. So Madam Sarah is the GPA organizer, national organizer. Thank you for the contributions. I can see a lot of thank yous in the chat. Okay, please, is there any other question or contribution? If not, then we'll be bringing our discussion to a close. So, as I mentioned, this program is the Mastercard Foundation and Ghana Growth Project, which is being promoted by the Ghana Psychological Association. Okay, someone is asking for my contact, so I'll just type that in the chat box so you can pick it up from there. Okay, so hopefully next week we are hoping that we'll be able to meet again. And next week we are to start think mood disorders. Let me just confirm. It's a weekly webinar series that we do. Then we have an itinerary. So, okay, we have anxiety disorders. And then from there, move to mood disorders, personality disorders in that. So far, we've done general mental health awareness. We've done substance use disorder. And today, we are doing stress and stress management. So our next will be, we are going to take anxiety disorders based on the DSM-5 criteria and discuss. All right, so thank you all for your time. We are glad to have you, and next week we hope to see you again. My name is Jones Kwesi Tagbor. I have been your presenter and the lead for this particular group. Thank you, and do have. Okay, sorry, there's a late comment that I've seen in the chat. Okay, Moses Kwame Ejam says, brother, the answer you gave concerning confidentiality is apt and appropriate. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Moses, for that. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we'll draw the curtains here and let us manage our stress properly. Let's have time for ourselves. Let's eat well. Let's make time to sleep and have rest. Let's refresh. And we know that we have right. So let's ensure we protect our right. Thank you and do have a good evening. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Good night.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.